Power Rangers Operation Overdrive is not fondly remembered. I'll admit, the Disney era of Power Rangers was my childhood. I remember watching Mystic Force fondly as well as SPD, though as an adult I can see some of the things that really needed improvement. Operation Overdrive, when I was watching it as a kid, was something I really did not enjoy. I found it really boring, but as an adult I can see why. I honestly felt like Once a Ranger embodies everything wrong with the Disney era as a whole. Let's get started with the opening theme. It's really bad. As in, it's not going to get used as an insert song anytime soon, mainly because it sucks so much that using it as an insert song would be wrong. Like, this whole. I'm not a music person, but I found something very off about this. It's like someone tried to write rap even though they have never written rap in their lives, so this comes off as a first draft that has been polished, and you really feel like the word choices just don't work when it comes to writing rap. Anytime you write music, word choice matters, and here, this feels like a polished first draft, is all I'm saying. We open with a fight scene with a Monster of the Week, Miratrix, and Camdor. And then we get to the villains who get mysterious boxes that opens up and summons them elsewhere. See, Operation Overdrive had a gimmick where there were multiple villain factions who were looking for something called the Corona Aurora Jewels all at once, because, of course, why would you have a crown named after COVID? Yes, I know that COVID's named after the crown shape it has, but still, let me have my joke. So the Fear Cats, Moltor, Florius, Camdor, and Miratrix were all summoned by this guy, Thrax, the son of Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed. Where do I begin with his design? It's clearly trying to emulate Lord Zed with that jawbone that makes him resemble his uncle Rito Revolto, and the other half that is meant to emulate Zed. But I find the whole not just having the grate go all the way around his mouth to just be an interesting design choice. Like, I get what they were trying to do, show representation from all his relatives, but this design is not doing it. So the implication is that the Sentinel Knight had imprisoned Thrax thousands of years ago, if not millions. I know Power Rangers continuity sucks, but this is a bit of an internal continuity error. The Sentinel Knight only woke in the opening of this season, and not to mention, Rita and Lord Zed only wed in the past 13 years. Now, you could argue that Zed and Rita used genetic engineering and time manipulation, not like they don't have access to ether, to create Thrax. I say this is lazy writing, trying to cash in on the fact this is an anniversary episode, which is a fair thing to do, if done competently. It's not. This whole scene with Thrax and the Sentinel Knight is just so weird. It would help if Thrax was some kind of usurper trying to ride the coattails of Rita and Zed's legacy, but nope, he is their actual son until someone writes something else. Thrax's deal is simple. The Rangers are all a thorn in their collective sides and thus need to be dealt with. For all he cares, this alliance he proposed is only going to be temporary, and after they have served their purpose, they can start vaporizing each other, because you can't say kill anymore, or at all. You have to say something like vaporize or destroy. Meanwhile, the Rangers are going on about how Operation Overdrive is great because it gives excitement in their lives. It takes Taizon saying saving the world is the best part about being a Ranger. Put a pin in this. Anyways, Thrax contacts him and tells them to go battle with him and his evil alliance. Now, move into our first major fight scene. It's pathetic. I noticed this more as an adult than I did as a kid, but Disney seasons had a very strange sound design philosophy, especially compared to the Saban and Neo-Saban eras. These seasons tend to overindulge in the laser sound effect. Whatever something is fired from a blaster, or not even just a blaster, maybe an energy attack or some lightning bolts, that's where the laser sound effect happens. Whenever something is impacted, let's say by a punch or a kick, there's always a laser sound effect. And it's strange because in Mystic Force I found this a bit uncanny because why would you have a laser sound effect in a show that is more heavily leaning on magic and mysticism? Yes, it has its place, but I think the overindulgence in it is what makes the whole thing a bit uncanny. Then there's the stock music. See, after the Saban era, or at least the Zordon and post-Zordon era, that's now just collectively called the Saban era, it seems like the whole music department got chucked out in favor of just using a stock music service, which stock music has its purpose. SpongeBob, for example, is nothing but stock music, except for when they don't, which is really plot-relevant scenes. The problem with using stock music is that you can have an identity issue, especially if you're using it between multiple shows. You don't exactly hear many of the unique character themes for the Disney seasons because, well, stock music. Then there's the use of these back explosions. They are often called Kalish explosions by the fans because Bruce Kalish was executive producer and showrunner from SPD to Jungle Fury. I hate these explosions so much, especially in Operation Overdrive, where they are seemingly used every 2 minutes. I take that back. This fight scene, according to the PR official YouTube channel, starts at around 6:15. This first explosion happens at 6:40. The next one happens at around 6:50. The next one happens at around 7:05. The next one happens around 7:28. This one at 7:40 I can excuse because it's a unique thing, but because, it's a Zord. This one is at the 8-minute mark. This one is at the 8:11 mark, followed by another one at 8:15. In this 2-minute fight scene, there are 8 Kalish explosions. The problem with these types of explosions is that the choreography and cinematography frames them as big dramatic moments. Now, you can occasionally get these from these slow-motion back explosion shots with dramatic effect, but the law of diminishing returns hits you full throttle. 8 times in around 2 minutes is far too much that you ultimately lack any dramatic tension. This is why I found the back explosions to be the thing that killed all excitement for me as a kid. Because using them once per battle, I can deal with it, but using them this often just makes the battle boring and repetitive, especially when you have to replay that explosion in slow motion. There's also another issue. When you have these explosions go behind them, it makes it look like the villains can't aim to save their lives. Did Disney go, oh, no front explosions to the production crew? Because front explosions makes a bit more sense. If you blast someone in the front, you can at least have the illusion of them being blasted back from the force of the explosion. There is no illusion with a Kalish explosion. So anyways, villains combine their collective energies and sever the Rangers' connection to the morphing grid as shown by this electrical tunnel bit. The Sentinel Knight teleports the Rangers elsewhere, which apparently is a difficult task for the Sentinel Knight. While the Morphers are damaged, Spencer, the best supporting character, informs them that the Alliance is attacking random places all over the world. Camdor and Mig go to Stonehenge, props to the production crew for at least replicating something that looks like Stonehenge, and we get more explosion-related nonsense from the Rangers firing lasers at Mig. Just use smaller explosions. They're cheaper than this crap, and you'll get the same point across. Mig seems to utilize that just fine. Camdor and Mig want to simply laser and lightning the Rangers to finish them off once and for all, but look who arrived from last season. And finally, someone uses front explosions correctly. SPD Red has also arrived, followed by Dino Thunder Yellow. I will also note that the theme songs are utilized for the arrival of these retro Rangers, and were utilized pretty well. Except for one, because apparently GoGo Power Rangers was owned by Saban at the time. I don't get copyright law either. So plot-wise, I have a problem with this. Don't get me wrong, I love crossovers and team-ups. I'm a Marvel and DC fan for a reason. The problem is that the Sentinel Knight can somehow pull a ranger from the future and restore the powers of some of the rangers here, but apparently teleporting is a bit too much for him. Like, let's see here. We have Adam, who lost his powers, though appearance from in space shows that he can morph with a damaged morpher, but it's been a few years, so he could have gotten it repaired. There's Bridge, who is from the future. Xander, who still has his powers because of the bonds of magical human beings and forest monsters and whatever. Tori and Kira, who lost their powers at the end of their seasons. So the Sentinel Knight can come up with pretty much new powers on the spot, and he doesn't bother do anything else this season. I mean, it's a fundamental writing thing where you're at least supposed to handicap your strongest character so that the plot isn't immediately resolved and you have the dramatic tension there. Otherwise, we're just here screaming like Schaefer going, shoot him with the dehydration gun. But enough about the Sentinel Knight apparently being able to bend time, space, and reality. No. We actually had to get to the competent fight scene of this episode. There's a heavier emphasis on fight choreography here, and it is welcomed after the explosion nonsense for like the first 3 battle scenes, and it does allow the Ranger's personality to shine through. So Adam and Hartford are working on repairing the Ranger powers. Morphers, those are easy. Connection to the morphing grid itself, that's a bit more complicated. So what are the Rangers up to? So these 6 moronic bird brains decide to call it quits. Keep in mind, they were commissioned to find the jewels of the Corona Aurora, not get the thrill of being superheroes. What makes this even more insulting is that we just had several years of Power Rangers losing their powers yet continuing to fight. The best episodes of Mystic Force was the Dark Wish 3-parter where the Rangers lost their powers, saw good magic completely evaporate from the universe, and made an alliance with one of their enemies, fought through every single fallen warrior who failed to get to their destination in order to get their powers back and bring back good magic. I mean, Dark Wish was a great 3-parter, and it shows just how worthy those Rangers were compared to these idiots. Look, the idea that there could be an arc because they were simply demoralized from getting their butts kicked and possibly nearly killed by Camdor and Mig, that is understandable. I don't blame them for that. That's fair. But this isn't the first time they acted like dolts who need to be, told that they have to be Power Rangers to save people and not simply, adrenaline junkies for the hell of it, who are only Rangers for the rush it brings them. Meanwhile, the villains, there seems to be implications that they were going to betray Thrax. They don't, at all. Moving on. The Rangers are in a warehouse in Angel Grove. And of course, we get an unmorphed fight with the Retro Rangers. Bridge's weird tactics aside, seriously, what the hell? This is actually a great fight scene. And really highlights how if you just do the choreography, it just makes everything easier. Seriously, I'm not over the explosions bit. They find a box with the Power Rangers symbol, which, that's not what the lightning bolt looks like. That's a Pikachu tail. If this was a secret crossover with Pokemon, this would be hilarious. So basically, the Sentinel Knight says the magic sword called Excelsior, aka Stanley's catchphrase, can end him, and Mac wants to get it first and goes against the wishes of the Sentinel Knight. But then his quest leads him to the sword, and Thrax could have vaporized all 5 Rangers. Yeah, they followed Mac, although he doesn't because he's an idiot. The arrival of the other Rangers really shows off how unworthy all 5 of these dolts are when it comes to being Rangers. Well, I wouldn't say Mac is unworthy because he took this of his own initiative to go pull the sword, but when they weren't able to pull the sword from the warrior goddess statue, they were content with just simply walking away. Because at the end of the day, these are 5 quitter idiots whenever the job gets hard. And they only manage to pull the sword because Mac refuses to just simply give up and gets his second wind, and it's just painful. Alpha restores her powers, the Sentinel Knight is restored to physical form. Now it's time for our final fight. Could we get the unmorphed fight back, or the earlier fight with the Chillers and Flurious, because these explosions are just plain awful. I do appreciate the use of a current team's powers by an older team in order to fight an enemy. That's not something you see too often. And of course, the Overdrive shield is made out of the dragon scale from Mystic Force. In other words, it's a dragon shield, so nice reference. Thrax is destroyed. Alliance crumbles. That's the end. That was Once a Ranger, and shoddy and sloppy are the perfect adjectives to describe these two episodes. For an anniversary team-up, the Retro Rangers and the Overdrive Rangers are barely together in the same room. I wouldn't even mind these dolts calling it quits if they were actually demoralized by their earlier showing by Camdor and Mig and thus felt useless, but no, they are actually useless. The Retro Rangers are the only ones doing anything to help. It's these guys who go to Angel Grove to help the Overdrive Rangers by finding Alpha in a box, who was shoved in there for reasons unknown, in order to get into the morphing grid and repair the connection. Adam is literally at Hartford's side repairing the morphers, but is unable to just connect them to the grid. Adam feels more like a protagonist than whatever the Overdrive Rangers are doing. Meanwhile, these idiots couldn't pull a sword until Mac talked them into it. A more competent episode would be that the Rangers really got their teeth kicked in by Thrax and later Camdor and Mig to the point that they legitimately feel that they are useless, but either the Retro Rangers or the Sentinel Knight tells them, hey, there's a means of gaining your powers back, and they have to work for it, gaining confidence they once had in order to become the Rangers they should be. Basically be broken and repaired stronger. Or you could just do this and just pull a sword from Stan Lee's catchphrase in an unnamed warrior goddess. That works too, I guess. So when you're making a team-up, one of the things you should avoid doing is making the old Rangers look better than the new ones, and the Retro Rangers look so much better that it's not even funny. It's like they have an actual sense of duty, rather than just, we were in this for the thrills. The fight scenes with the Overdrive Rangers are all tainted by the explosion fetish. Look, you have two options. Either you can make a really engaging storyline, or you can have good action. Once a Ranger absolutely fails at doing both. What do we even go to Power Rangers for anyways? Oh wait, the action. And we stay for surprisingly good character work. Unfortunately, the action is so poor that I would rather watch other seasons and are reminded of better seasons with better action. Those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.